The eviction notice was taped to the door at 6 a.m. Marcus Williams pulled it off, reading the familiar words. 72 hours to vacate for repeated violations of lease terms. He'd seen this before, not just on his own door, but on dozens of others in this building over the past year. As the city's chief building inspector, Marcus knew exactly what was happening. His landlord, Victor Rousseau, was systematically pushing out long-term tenants to jack up rents for new arrivals willing to pay double. But what Victor didn't know was that the quiet tenant in 4B had been documenting every code violation in the building for months. Marcus folded the notice and slipped it into his briefcase. By tonight, Victor would learn that evicting a city building inspector was the worst business decision of his life. The building at 847 Pine Street had been Marcus's home for 3 years. When he first moved in after his divorce, it was affordable and well-maintained. But 6 months ago, a new management company took over, Rousseau Properties, and everything changed. Repairs stopped being made. Heat became unreliable. The elevator broke down weekly, and tenants who complained suddenly received eviction notices for violations that ranged from made-up to absurd. Marcus's official violation? Excessive noise complaints. The irony wasn't lost on him. He worked 60-hour weeks and was barely home. But Victor Rousseau didn't care about truth. He cared about profit margins. What Victor didn't realize was that Marcus had been conducting an unofficial inspection every time something broke. Water damage that wasn't reported, exposed wiring that violated code, missing fire safety equipment. The building was a disaster, and Marcus had documented everything. The question was, should he reveal who he was now and stop the eviction, or let Victor dig himself deeper? Marcus chose option 2. He went to work that morning as usual, processing inspection requests and reviewing violation reports. His phone buzzed around noon, a text from his neighbor, Mrs. Chen. "They're posting more eviction notices. 5 of us now. We need to fight this." Marcus replied, "Don't worry. I'm handling it." At 3 p.m., he filed an official inspection request for 847 Pine Street, citing multiple resident complaints regarding safety violations. The request would trigger a mandatory inspection within 48 hours. Then he went home and waited. Victor arrived at 5 p.m. with 2 men in cheap suits, his property management team. They knocked aggressively on Marcus's door. "Mr. Williams, we're here to discuss your eviction." Marcus opened the door, his expression neutral. "I got the notice." "What violations am I being evicted for?" Victor smirked, pulling out a clipboard. "Multiple noise complaints from neighbors, unauthorized modifications to the unit, failure to maintain cleanliness standards." "Who filed the noise complaints?" Marcus interrupted. "That's confidential." "Interesting. Because I've been tracking my schedule, I haven't been home past 10 p.m. in 6 months. Victor's jaw tightened. "The complaints are legitimate." "And the unauthorized modifications?" "You installed a shelf without permission." Marcus almost laughed. "I hung a picture." "That's not a modification." "According to our lease interpretation, it is." The 2 men behind Victor shifted uncomfortably. They clearly knew this was nonsense, but they were getting paid to back their boss. "Mr. Rousseau," Marcus said calmly, "I think you should know something before you proceed." "I don't care what you think you know." "You have 72 hours to vacate, or we'll file for forcible removal." "File whatever you want, but I should mention, I work for the city." Victor's smirk widened. "So?" "Lots of people work for the city. Not in my department." "I'm chief building inspector for the municipality." The color drained from Victor's face. His associates took a step back. "You're... what?" Marcus pulled out his city credentials, letting Victor see the official seal. Chief Building Inspector, and I've been living in this building for 3 years, watching you systematically violate every safety code in the book. Victor's mouth opened and closed like a fish. You can't. This is entrapment. It's not entrapment when I'm legitimately living here and you're legitimately breaking the law. Marcus pulled out a thick folder. Want to see the documentation? Water damage in the basement, unreported, creating mold hazards. Electrical system that hasn't been updated since 1975, violating current code. Fire exits blocked with storage. Missing carbon monoxide detectors. Missing fire extinguishers. Elevator that fails inspection standards monthly. He flipped through pages of photos and notes. I have 47 documented violations. Any one of them could shut this building down. All of them together? He shrugged. You're looking at massive fines and potential criminal charges. Victor's face went from pale to red. This is harassment. You can't use your position to... I'm using my position to do my job. You just happened to be breaking the law while I was watching. The associates had backed away completely now, clearly wanting nothing to do with this disaster. The eviction stands. Victor tried weakly. You still have to leave. Actually, no. Because tomorrow morning, this building gets an official inspection, and based on what I find, which will be everything I've already documented, this entire building will be declared uninhabitable until repairs are made. You'll be evicting everyone, not just me. Victor's eyes widened. You can't do that. I have rights. You have the right to maintain safe housing for your tenants. You chose not to. Now you face the consequences. I'll sue. Please do. I'll enjoy presenting this evidence in court. Marcus gestured to his folder. Every photo is time-stamped and geotagged. Every violation is documented according to city code. You'll lose. One of Victor's associates whispered urgently in his ear. Victor's shoulders slumped. What do you want? He asked quietly. I want you to withdraw every eviction notice in this building. I want you to make the necessary repairs within 90 days. I want you to stop harassing tenants who exercise their rights. And I want you to remember that not everyone is powerless. Victor stood there, defeated. His grand plan to clear out tenants and raise rents had just exploded in his face. Fine, he muttered. The evictions are withdrawn. In writing, now. Victor scribbled on his clipboard, tearing off a sheet and handing it to Marcus. This isn't over. Yes, it is. Because tomorrow, I'm assigning a team to inspect every property you own in this city. If they find similar violations, you'll be facing charges that make this look like a parking ticket. As Victor and his associates left, other tenants emerged from their units. Mrs. Chen approached first. Did I hear that right? You're a building inspector? Marcus nodded. Should have mentioned it sooner, but I wanted to see how far he'd go. She laughed, relief washing over her face. You let him dig his own grave. Something like that. The building inspection the next day was thorough and damning. The official report listed 52 violations, 5 more than Marcus had privately documented. The building was given 30 days to make critical safety repairs or face closure. Victor Rousseau tried to fight it. He hired lawyers, filed complaints, even tried to argue that Marcus had a conflict of interest. But every attempt failed. The violations were clear, the documentation was solid, and the law was on the tenant's side. 3 months later, the building was transformed. New wiring, updated fire safety systems, a functioning elevator, and actual maintenance. Victor had been forced to invest hundreds of thousands to avoid criminal charges, but, more importantly, he'd learned a lesson about underestimating people. The quiet tenant in 4B wasn't just another victim. He was someone with the knowledge and authority to hold him accountable. Marcus stood in the lobby, watching the new smoke detectors being installed. Mrs. Chen joined him. "You could have revealed who you were immediately," she said. "Why wait?" "Because if I'd shown my badge right away, he might have backed off, fixed just my unit, and continued victimizing everyone else. By letting him commit fully to the eviction, I had evidence of his pattern. Now, he can't do this to anyone else in any of his properties." She smiled. "You sacrificed your own convenience for the community." "No sacrifice. I was going to inspect this building eventually. He just gave me motivation to be thorough. 6 months after the eviction notice, the building was safe, the tenants were protected, and Victor Rousseau had sold off most of his properties, unable to afford the repairs needed to bring them up to code. Marcus remained in 4B, now paying the same rent under new ownership that actually cared about maintenance. Every time he passed the spot where Victor had stood threatening eviction, he smiled. Sometimes the best response to abuse of power isn't immediate confrontation. It's patient documentation and strategic revelation. Victor thought he was evicting a powerless tenant. Instead, he'd challenged someone who could dismantle his entire business model with a single inspection report. The lesson spread through the landlord community. Be careful who you try to intimidate. They might have more power than you realize. If this story resonated with you, remember, knowledge is power, but timing is everything. Sometimes the best response to injustice is to gather evidence, choose your moment, and let the truth speak louder than any argument. Share this with someone who needs to know that standing up for what's right doesn't always mean immediate confrontation. Sometimes it means strategic patience and perfect timing. Subscribe to Real Justice Stories for more tales of accountability, justice, and the power of knowing your rights and using them wisely. Thank you for watching. Remember, the person you're trying to intimidate might be exactly the person who can hold you accountable.